Surprise, surprise, Microsoft's dropped a big bombshell on us. SharePoint Premium is coming. In this video, we're going to cover what the news was that came out from Ignite and how it's going to affect you. Also, some of the costs. How is it going to affect you financially? So let's jump in and start talking about what they've given us so far in terms of this news update. So right off the top of your head, you're already thinking the same thing I was. SharePoint and now SharePoint Premium, are there two different models that they're going to be offering us? No, this is going to be more along the lines of Teams Premium. That was a license-based thing that you can apply to certain users to enable more advanced Teams functionality. That's really what this is going to be. What they're really doing here is they're rolling up some of the more advanced functionality that's in SharePoint, as well as some of the surrounding technologies, most notably Syntex. They're going to roll all of this up into a new offering or a new license that can be applied to users. Not all of this functionality is going to be brand new to you, but it is going to probably reduce the cost overall of doing these things. Now, I've got links in the description below for the blog post that details a lot of this information, but what you need to know to start with is just that the fact that this is a new license and not a new solution. It's not a new product. I'm going to be covering all of the news that has come out around this new SharePoint Premium. I'm going to be talking about when they're going to be going live and the other burning questions that you and I both have about this. So make sure you watch until the end to get all of the information. So one of the descriptions here is that SharePoint Premium brings AI automation and added security to your content experiences, processing, and governance. With SharePoint Premium, we'll be transitioning the services already released as part of Syntex, including SharePoint Advanced Management, to join the growing family of SharePoint services along with brand new content experiences. So let's talk about some of the content experiences that they've mentioned. Now, one of the things that comes to mind when I see content experiences is the new page authoring experience that they've been teasing us with for several months now. From what I can tell, this is not going to be affected at all by this new offering. I think we're still getting the same page authoring experience as part of our core SharePoint experience. So don't worry about that. One of the things that's going to be coming out, though, is a new app for Teams, which is apparently part of SharePoint Premium. So this new Teams app is called Business Documents in Teams. What this is actually going to do is give you the ability to edit over 400 file types. Right now, what we can do is basically edit Office documents and view PDFs, although I think that's more browser-based than it is the Office web app kind of experience. But this is going to add 400 file types to the Teams experience so that you can edit and annotate and do other things with those particular documents. So this is going to provide a lot of value for content authoring. And one thing to note with this is that they're not really talking about authoring these documents inside SharePoint. They're talking about authoring them in Teams, which is more for your collaboration type activities anyway. So they're kind of pushing you into Teams quite a bit more. I think that's a good thing personally. Now, another feature of this Business Documents app is there's going to be what they call high-value documents. These are things like contracts, statements of work, orders, invoices, and more, it says. This Business Documents app inside Teams is going to give you some actionable insights like alerts for contracts that could be expiring soon, things that need your attention. There's going to be a lot more, and more than likely, they're all going to be AI-driven insights. You know, things that are analyzing all of these documents and trying to help you keep track of the thousands or hundreds of thousands of invoices, contracts, things like that that you've got to manage, making it easier and having you focus on other things and not really babysitting these documents. Also, as part of this, or maybe adjacent to this, is in Microsoft Word, you're going to be able to build out some of these high value documents, as they say. And part of that is it's going to automatically fill in key details for some of these. What I can imagine is that maybe when you type in maybe a vendor number into a field, it can fill in the rest of the details perhaps. So there'll be a little bit of AI assistant there helping you along the way. So that's going to be really neat to try out. And speaking of the AI part, one of the questions that I had as soon as I saw SharePoint Premium was, what about Copilot? Well, there's really not much of a mention of Copilot being changed whatsoever as part of SharePoint Premium. I think we're still getting Copilot this month. They said this month anyway. I still think we're getting Copilot for SharePoint this month, and it will be part of the standard SharePoint product. It's not going to be tied behind a SharePoint Premium license. That's my opinion. I haven't seen confirmation one way or the other on that though, because I think that they are pushing Copilot hard. If you've been watching any of the Ignite stuff, Copilot is very, very much front and center of what Microsoft is trying to push to everybody on all of their applications. For good reason. AI is kind of the future. So no reason just yet to panic at all about Copilot being behind a paywall, at least for Copilot for SharePoint. But back to content processing. Another one of the neat features that's been announced is what they call SharePoint eSignature. We're finally getting eSignatures inside SharePoint. This is really part of the Syntex type suite, I believe. But as part of SharePoint Premium, you are going to be able to have electronic signatures. All the data will stay in your tenant as you would expect with a product like this from Microsoft. Typically, you're using things like DocuSign or Adobe. I think it's Adobe Sign. And, there's content is technically, it could be sent outside of your tenant. So there could be some data security, data privacy issues there. Well, with SharePoint eSignature, all your data is staying in your tenant, which is another great benefit of kind of just staying within the Microsoft family and keeping all of your data on your own tenant that you hopefully have secured right. And one thing to note about these e-signatures is that you can still have external users signing these documents. So they would just basically be brought into your tenant just enough to be able to sign that particular document and move it along in whatever document flow it's in the process of. Now, the SharePoint eSignatures is going to be live starting Q1 of 2024. So Q1 of next year, this will start to roll out to all tenants, starting with the US tenants. Also starting early next year is third-party integration for eSignature. So you'll be able to integrate Adobe Sign or DocuSign into the SharePoint eSignature process, I guess you could say. Now, we've already got this, available to us, but I think this will integrate nicely with SharePoint eSignature, however that presents itself to us, the administrators, to the users. So let's see how this turns out. So I'm just looking at my notes here. So some of the other features that they've mentioned is an AI-driven clause analyzer. So as part of document processing, there's the ability to do a bulk analysis of high-value documents. There's that high-value documents phrase, again, that they keep using all throughout this. So what this will do is it will allow you to analyze a ton of documents all at once, tell you what needs attention now, what potential risks are there with those documents, probably looking into the language being used in them and things like that to determine what needs attention, where the risks are. So that's going to be available, and that'll be neat to try out as well. But a big one that's going to be useful for you is the document portal. They've announced a document portal as part of SharePoint Premium, and this is going to be basically an external site for your vendors, for customers, things like that, things where you might have been using a third-party product to serve documents to your external facing or to your external users. You're going to be able to just have a SharePoint site, it looks like, probably a special type of site, but it's more suited towards sharing documents with external users, allowing them to collaborate on some of these documents. It will still have a consistent look and feel so it'll be in line with your corporate branding. So that is going to be a very major feature as far as SharePoint Premium goes. Next is going to be the translation for files and stream videos. So we've got translations coming by the end of 2023. So what this will do is it will look at your files and video transcripts and translate them to other languages. It says dozens of supported languages. Automatically and at scale. So whether it's 1 or whether it's 100 or 1,000, it'll be able to handle this very easily is what they're saying. They are also announcing automatic translation services for stream video in SharePoint and AI-powered video cleanup that automatically removes pauses and fillers and recordings. So that is really, really nice to condense those videos down since we're all paying for storage for these new stream videos now. This will remove the fillers, the pause words, so that when someone goes and rewatches this on a replay, they don't have to sit through the entire meeting, essentially. They can sit through a much faster version of that. Even though we all know that no one watches these videos at 1x speed. I'm watching it at 1.5 usually, sometimes at double speed. As long as I can keep up with what's going on, I'm just gonna breeze through that stuff anyway. It's nice that maybe I won't have to do it as much, is kind of what I'm thinking. So that's going to be available by the end of next month, by the end of December 2023. Some of the other smaller notes that they've mentioned for the first half of 2024, autofill columns. Allows you to dynamically add a new column to a document library and use AI to automatically fill in the discovered values. So that is really, really nice because I know it's a huge hassle when you're converting users from the older folder-based document libraries that they just clutch onto with dear life because they never want to give it up. And you're trying to move them to metadata-based document storage. The big problem is, that they might say, I've got 10,000 documents, Steve. How in the world, where am I going to find the time to fill in all of this information? Well, it looks like we're going to be getting something like that, where there's some processing that can occur, and it will add in columns into document libraries to do things like maybe hold the client name, hold, the document type, some of those types of things, and it'll just fill all of that in for you. That's going to be very exciting for me and for my customers. So this is something that's really cool, something you should be looking out for when it hits GA, which would be first half of 2024. Also, there's going to be PII detection, so personally identifiable information. It can flag files containing personally identifiable information such as addresses, phone numbers, credit cards, and more. I think we already have something really similar to that available in Purview that can automatically apply sensitivity labels to things. So I'm not sure what this is actually going to give us that's new. I don't know. We'll see. And this is definitely getting a lot more into Syntex. The multi-label classifier. Now, this says it will run a single AI model to automatically set the content type and determine the right model to apply for full data extract and analysis, rather than running multiple models to figure out which is the best match for that. If you're doing a lot of Syntex things and you're doing a lot of processing or data extraction from documents, this is definitely going to be probably a big cost savings to you because you're not going to have to basically have this thing rely on trial and error. It'll have a much probably shorter algorithm to look through to figure out which model matches this particular piece of content, and then it'll just run that. So that's kind of neat. Also, there's going to be redaction. It will find and remove selected information such as names, address, social security numbers from content viewing. Now, this I don't think we do have in Purview. So this definitely looks like brand new functionality. So all of those things will be in first half of 2024. They are also adding some graph APIs for SharePoint Premium so that you can have custom applications automatically start leveraging some of the things like document processing, content assembly, and related services. probably a lot of the things that we've just run through in this video. You'll be able to call all those types of services through an API. So if you've got a custom application, you can still leverage all the power in there just through the graph. So that should be nice for the custom app dev folks that are out there. And one thing to note is a lot of these things are already part of Syntex that they've been talking about. They're already available on a pay-as-you-go model. So all of us that have been using Syntex already, we were aware of that. That there's just, you're going to pay for that Syntex processing time. And speaking of the pay-as-you-go model, if you've been waiting to try this out, starting January of 2024, there will be a 6-month period. So the first half of 2024, we will get a small free portion of Syntex processing. So that pay-as-you-go capacity, we will be getting that for free to try this stuff out. And if you've heard the expression, the first taste is free, well, we technically didn't have that first taste free. We paid for it, but now we're getting a free one in hopes that we'll pay for it in the future. At least it lets you start trying out these services and seeing what can this do for your organization and what can this do to start saving you and your users some time. There's an addition in here for the SharePoint Admin Center as part of SharePoint Premium. Now we do have a data access governance report that's already available in the SharePoint Admin Center, but with SharePoint Premium, we're going to be able to trigger a site access review for site owners. This could identify at-risk content in those particular site collections, and this will kind of force the site owners to verify who has access to all this, or at least make them aware of who has access to some of this content. Make them sign off that yes, these people are supposed to have access to it, and this site is good to go. Thank you for your support. So that's kind of what this is going to do. It'll take some administrative burden off of you as the SharePoint admin to have to do all this manually and run these reports. So it looks like this is going to help you out a little bit with triggering some of these site access reviews. We're also getting Copilot and the SharePoint Admin Center. It'll let you find issues like oversharing, missing classifications, or inactivity of sites. And it will let you build policies to manage those situations. So that actually sounds pretty cool. They've also announced SharePoint Premium policies. So these are going to let you do things like auto move old sites to an archive storage. Now, the archive storage is actually another thing that they've announced today. So this is available in public preview starting today. Basically, the whole point is it will take a site and move it to an archive. It's still available to be restored, but it can't be used in this cold storage, basically, as they call it. Now, this cold storage is going to be a whole lot cheaper than your hot storage, which is where all of your sites currently live. But you only will pay for the storage there that goes over your total tenant storage. So whatever your tenant storage is, if you've only used half of it and you start to archive things, all the archive storage is still completely free. But it does let you get ahead of the game, because at some point you are going to get that storage it'll start getting pretty full. I know there's customers out there that have hit that tenant storage limit already, or they get close enough that they had to start buying additional storage. So this will at least start managing that cost ahead of time before you have to start looking at buying more expensive hot storage. And now, before I start talking about some of the go live dates for some of these things, let's just cover a few other details on this. Now, Microsoft Archive is available today, November 15th, 2023, in a public preview state. No word yet when it's going to go GA, but there's no reason you couldn't just start using it now to give it a shot. Some of the other notes down here. So Syntex is going to be moving to the SharePoint Premium brand in 2024. It says services available under the Syntex brand is moving to the SharePoint Premium brand in 2024. It'll include 2 licensing models. There'll be the content processing services which includes eSignature, PII detection, autofill columns, content assembly, translation, and image processing, will be available on a pay-as-you-go basis to most M365 plans. Then it says, the new capabilities like Business Documents app, the Documents Hub, Enhanced File Viewer, as well as the SAM, I think that was the SharePoint Advanced Management, will be available as seat licensed services you could add to your M365 plan, with pricing to be announced at GA in 2024. So Syntex is going to actually still be a pay-as-you-go service. They're just rebranding it to SharePoint Premium Content Processing Services, maybe? That's what it seems like. But it's still going to be pay-as-you-go, but they've kind of separated this from the seated license. So has Syntex really changed? Do you not need a per-seat license? If you're still doing pay-as-you-go, does the seat license give you some of that pay-as-you-go? Those are things that we will be waiting to hear from as we get closer to 2024 in this rebrand. So they also say we'll bring SharePoint Premium to broad availability in the first half of 2024. Both SharePoint Premium seat licenses and pay-go services can be used independently and combined to meet your business requirements. So SharePoint Premium is kind of two sides of the house. There's the Syntex content processing side, and then there's the actual new SharePoint stuff, I guess you could say. Even though the Teams app is more of a Teams thing and less of a SharePoint thing, they're still including it in SharePoint Premium, so I don't know. It's a little bit confusing. Maybe they try to cram too much into the SharePoint Premium model, the brand, maybe? That's what it sounds like. So what does this mean for your organization now? What I'm thinking this is really going to be is that as you start to do more content processing using Syntex, you're going to be starting to drift over more towards the SharePoint Premium side. I would bet money they're going to keep putting more content out for SharePoint Premium seat licenses and kind of paywalling it to some extent. Maybe some web parts or things like that that'll be limited to whoever has that kind of a seat license. Right now, there's not a tremendous amount of reason to go over to Premium, but I would say let's see how this new document viewer looks like, and some of the team stuff. It seems pretty strong in the team stuff. I think that's going to be a very compelling reason. If Syntex over here is all pay as you go, then you can kind of pick that up whenever you're ready in the organization. But when you're talking about eSignatures, PII, there's some security reasons there why you may want to leverage some of the Syntex stuff over here to add a little extra layer of security, or make sure all of your data is being kept in-house, especially when you're going to external vendors for signatures or things like that. With the age of AI coming into play here, and the security implications of having your data being processed by some AI engine and potentially it learning from your data, as we've seen in the past with some companies that have made some pretty serious mistakes. It's a lot more important to learn from those kind of lessons and to make sure all of your data is kept in-house. I will say that as far as the AI stuff goes, Microsoft did announce today, I think they've mentioned in the past, that none of your data is ever being used to train their AI models. I think that's a big difference between something like ChatGPT versus Azure OpenAI services, is that, Microsoft's not training the models based off of the data that you're feeding into it, which is a very good, important thing to know, even though it is still not as important as understanding that all of your data is still kept on your same tenant when using Azure OpenAI. So that's kind of my take with what has come out so far. This is just day one, and this is just the opening round of news from Insight. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. What do you think of SharePoint Premium? Are you going to be trying this out? Do you have a need for, this more advanced document collaboration feature in Teams? Let me know, and I'll see you down in the comments.